4 times the square root of 25. The square root of 25 is 5, so we have 4 times 5, which is just equal to 20. So the answer for this one was D. And so for this one we have 3 radical 18. That's equal to 3 times the square root of 9 times the square root of 2. The square root of 9 is 3, so we have 3 times radical 2. That's 9 radical 2. The answer is C. Today's objective, again, is to simplify radical expressions.
Get an answer, A, B, C, or D.
We have 4 radical 8 all over radical 3. So we start by multiplying by radical 3 over radical 3. Alright, so 4 we keep, and radical 8 times radical 3 is radical 24. All over, and radical 3 times radical 3 is just 3. Now we want to break apart the 24. So we have 4 and 2 radicals. 24 breaks into 4 and 6 all over 3. So the square root of 4 is 2. So 4 times 2 times radical 6 all over 3. 4 times 2 is 8. We have 8 radical 6 all over 3. And 8 over 3 does not reduce, so 8 radical 6 all over 3 would be your final answer. We have 3 radical 2 all over radical 3. So once again, we start by multiplying by radical 3 over radical 3. So we end up with 3 radical 6 on top, all over radical 3 times radical 3 is just 3. So our 3's cancel on top and bottom, so all that you're left with is radical 6. So we'll start off by multiplying by radical 5 over radical 5. And we get 4 radical 100 over 5. The square root of 100 is 10. So we have 4 times 10 all over 5. 4 times 10 is 40. Divided by 5 equals 8, which is your final answer. So we have 4 radical 12 all over radical 3. So my first step is to multiply by radical 3 over radical 3. So I get 4 times the square root of 36 all over 3. Now the square root of 36 is 6, so 4 times 6 all over 3. 4 times 6 is 24 over 3, which is equal to 8. So we have 5 radical 2 all over 3 radical 6. The same first step applies. You're just going to multiply by radical 6 over radical 6. So for the top part in this problem, you're going to get 5 radical 12 over, we'll keep the 3, and radical 6 times radical 6 is just 6. So now we continue to simplify. The square root of 12 breaks into 4 times the square root of 3. All over 3 times 6 is 18. So the square root of 4 is 2. So we have 5 times 2 times the square root of 3 all over 18. 5 times 2 is 10. Keep the square root of 3 all over 18. Now we want to see if we can simplify any further. 2 does go into both 10 and 18. So 10 divided by 2 is 5. keep the radical 3 over 18 divided by 2 is 9. So your final answer would be 5 radical 3 all over 9. So we have 3 radical 12 over 5 radical 4. So again, we start by multiplying by the square root of 4 over the square root of 4. So we have 3 times the square root of 48 all over 5 times the square root of 4 times the square root of 4 is 4. So we have 3 times the square root of 48 breaks into 16 times 3 all over 5 times 4 is 20. So we have 3 times the square root of 16 is 4 times the square root of 3 all over 20. 3 times 4 is 12. We have 12 radical 3 all over 20. And now we want to see if 12 radical 3 over 20 reduces, which it does. 4 goes into both 12 and 20. So 12 divided by 4 is 3. We have 3 radical 3. And 20 divided by 4 is 5. So your final answer would be 3 radical 3 all over 5. So we start off by multiplying this problem by square root of 5 over the square root of 5. So we have 4 times the square root of 30 over 5 times 5. The square root of 30 doesn't have a perfect square go into it evenly. So we keep 4 square root of 30, and 5 times 5 is 25. 4 over 25 does not reduce, so your final answer is 4 times the square root of 30 all over 25. So for the first step for this one, again, we multiply by radical 6 over radical 6. So this becomes 3 radical 72 over 2 times the square root of 6 times the square root of 6 is 12, or 6, sorry. Okay, now the top part does break down. 72 becomes 36 times 2. 36, sorry. All over 2 times 6 is 12. So for the top part, we keep the 3. The square root of 36 is 6 times the square root of 2. All over 12. 3 times 6 is 18 times 2, radical 2 over 12. 18 and 12 do reduce. 6 goes into both of those. 18 divided by 6 is 3. We keep the radical 2. And 12 divided by 6 is 2. So your final answer would be 3 radical 2 all over 2.
Answer should have been.
For this one, we start off by multiplying by radical 12 over radical 12. So we get 3 times the square root of 48 over 5 times 12. The square root of 48 breaks down into 16 times 3, and 5 times 12 is 60. So we keep the 3. The square root of 16 is 4 times radical 3, all over 60. 3 times 4 is 12, radical 3, all over 60. 12 goes into both 12 and 60. 12 just one time, so you don't have to write the 1. You radical 3 over, and 60 divided by 12 is 5. So that's a square root of 3 over 5.